Hello everyone. Welcome to the Unit 5 of Week 1. The focus of this unit is to have a discussion of principles of good practice in assessing student learning. The unit outcome is at the end of the unit, you will be able to summarize the key principles of good practice in assessing student learning. So, the discussion which we were having so far on the characteristics of approaches of assessment and purposes of assessment, um, probably this kind of a discussion will help us understand that how do we take a balanced approach of every purpose of assessment and every approach of assessment. If we take a skewed kind of approach where we are focusing only on, say, assessment of learning or only, the assessment of certification purpose, in that scenario, it might happen that all sort of negative consequences of assessment that will come into picture, and there will be a lot of stress, fear, anxiety around assessments, and also assessments will not be effective. They cannot be meaningfully used. Okay, so with this discussion, probably now you will be comfortable in identifying the right purpose of assessment for the right context, and also take a balanced approach of practicing all three approaches of assessment in the classroom. So with this understanding, we will try to derive a few principles, and there will be certain principles that probably we have already discussed in the last 4 webinars. I will try to bring it together, and also there will be another set of principles which you will see that how those principles can be brought into practice through some, say, formative assessment, summative assessment, good quality question paper. So all of it might come in the subsequent week's discussion. So what are some of the key characteristics of good assessments? So there are certain organizations which are extensively working in the domain of assessments, such as National Council for Measurement and Evaluation, American Association for Higher Education, or say Joint Committee on Standards for Educational Evaluation. So such organizations, and there are many in the list. So when we have tried to review that what they are recommending, how they are perceiving good quality assessment, so certain common principles are being derived. Okay, and those 4 principles are that any assessment, okay, will be qualified as good assessments if they are used. Secondly, good assessments are cost effective, especially in terms of time. Thirdly, good assessments yield reasonably accurate and truthful results. Fourth, good assessments focus on and flow from clearly defined goals, and in this case, goals mean course outcomes. So, what we will do in our subsequent slides, we will try to unpack the meaning of these 4 principles. So, the first and foremost in this kind of a principle is start with the purpose. So, we should always be clear about why we are assessing and what kinds of decisions the data will support. When the purpose is vague, the assessment loses its power. But when the purpose is explicit, very clear, the information we collect becomes actionable and meaningful. So what do we mean by purpose? So purpose is basically defined by the course outcomes, and the assessment can be conducted by either for certification, accountability, selection, or supporting teaching and learning. Second, identify opportunities for action. So good assessments are not about generating marks. They are about generating insight. They help us detect students' misconceptions, so we can adapt our teaching strategies. They also guide us students' next steps by enabling timely and constructive feedback. And at a broader level, they inform program level improvements by highlighting where our curriculum may need refinement. So, in other words, from this second point, what we mean is assessment should lead to action and not just documentation. Third, and probably most important, is to engage the stakeholders. So, assessment works best when it is a shared enterprise. Faculty, students, and other relevant stakeholders should be involved in planning, interpreting, and discussing results. Faculty ownership is especially crucial when teachers feel responsible for the process. Assessment becomes a tool for improvement rather than a bureaucratic requirement. Coming to the fourth point, communicate results effectively. So, assessment findings should be shared transparently with the right audiences at the right time. They need to be communicated in a way that is fair, complete, and easy to understand. Clear communication builds trust and ensures that the information is actually used. And the last point is use results responsibly. So, no major decision about students, programs, or faculty should be based on a single assessment. We must also ensure that data is used ethically, fairly, and with appropriate context. Responsible use protects students and upholds the integrity of the entire assessment process. So, these are certain key points related to how we can make assessments that are used, that are usable. So, not that assessments are conducted and then just reported, but how do we ensure that they are usable? Coming to the second principle, which is good assessments are cost effective, especially in terms of time. So, the first point here is start with what you have. So, before creating anything new, take a quick inventory of the assessment tools and data you already use. So, often we can adapt or extend what exists instead of reinventing the wheel. This saves time and ensures continuity in how we measure learning. Second, streamline and simplify. So, good assessment does not need to be complicated. So, reduce paperwork, eliminate unnecessary steps, and focus on what truly provide useful evidence. Well-designed rubrics are especially powerful. They make evaluation faster, more consistent, and more meaningful for students. Third, leverage technology and collaboration. And we are going to have a dedicated discussion on using technology for assessments in week 7. But quickly, automated quizzes can handle routine knowledge checks efficiently, and it helps in freeing up instructor time for deeper learning tasks. For assignments like design reports or project drafts, structured peer review can distribute the workload while also reinforcing learning through evaluation. Fourth point is stagger assessments over time. So, instead of cluttering major assessments at the end, distribute them throughout the course. This reduces grading bottlenecks, supporting continuous feedback and help students learn progressively rather than all at once. And fifth, focus strategically. Not all course outcomes are equally easy to measure. Some are complex and may require long-term or indirect assessments. Early on, concentrate effort on outcomes that are more straightforward to assess while still acknowledging the value of those that are harder to measure. Moving to the third principle. So, this slide focuses on how we ensure that our assessments produce reasonably accurate and truthful results. Because the credibility of our decisions depends on the credibility of our evidences. So, firstly, align the assessments with learning goals. So, accuracy starts with clarity. So, when each assessment maps directly to specific course outcomes, we achieve strong content validity. So, in other words, we are measuring what we actually intend to measure, not something else. Second, using multiple approaches. So, no single method can capture the full range of students' learning. By combining quantitative tools like quizzes and exams with qualitative methods such as projects and reflections, we build a more complete picture. Triangulating these results increases credibility and reduces the chance of misleading conclusions. Thirdly, focus on balance and integration. Effective assessment represents the breadth of key outcomes, not just isolated bits of knowledge. This includes multidimensional abilities such as integrative thinking, synthesis, and application. Balanced evidence supports more accurate judgments about students' capability. And finally, let assessments evolve over time. Student needs, societal expectations, and employer requirements all change. So, periodically reviewing and updating our assessments ensures that what we measure remains relevant and meaningful. Continuous refinement keeps our evidence truthful to the realities that students are going to face. Let us move to the fourth principle. And I would say that this is the most important principle. So, this slide highlights one of the most foundational principles of assessment. Good assessments focus on and flow from clear and important goals. So, when our goals are well defined, everything else improves. Assessment become more cost effective because we avoid unnecessary tasks. They become more accurate and truthful because they measure exactly what matters. And they become easier to design, evaluate, and improve over time. So, to illustrate this principle, let me walk you through a simple example. So, imagine Professor Sophia, who is teaching digital electronics to third year undergraduate students. One of her key course outcome is design and test a digital logic circuit that meets specified functional requirements. So, you can see that this outcome is clear, specific, and it is also focused on the course outcomes. So, such course outcomes are ideal for driving assessment design. Okay, so here's how her assessment naturally flow from the goal, from the course outcome. So, probably Professor Sophia starts with a lab project. So, students design a combinational logic circuit using some kind of a simulation software or a tool. So this directly reflects the outcome. Then a rubric is also provided. So some kind of evaluation is also going on through a rubric. And say for this particular lab project, there can be certain criteria of success. It can be related to the correctness of design, functionality, efficiency, and documentation quality. Multiple measures are taken. So there were certain methods of assessment that were used. So students submit the circuit diagram, also the simulation results, and a short reflection on their design choices. So these different forms of evidence gives a fuller, more accurate picture of their learning. Also peer review and self-assessment is happening. So students review one another's design for clarity, functionality and innovation. This builds a deeper understanding and distributes some of the evaluative workload from teachers to also to peers and students. And there is some kind of staggered submission. Students submit a proposal, then an immediate prototype, and finally the tested circuit. So this avoids last minute grading overload and supports iterative improvement. Now in this scenario, because everything flows from the central goal, the course outcome, the assessment is efficient, it is reliable, and it is aligned with learning. Such kind of approach will probably help Professor Sophia teach better, support students in learning better, and also generate high quality evidence of students learning. Okay, and also you can see that the workload is manageable because it is getting distributed, right? And probably from this example, it is very clear that the importance of designing clearly defined course outcome. And if the assessment is flowing from such a course outcome, then assessment becomes manageable and also assessment becomes effective. So to summarize, good assessments are something that are used. They are cost effective, especially in terms of time. We understand that faculty members have lots and lots of administrative responsibility, also a lot of teaching load. So we cannot be suggesting something which is not cost effective as far as time is concerned. Thirdly, good assessment yield reasonably accurate and truthful results. Okay, they should actually help understand the students' learning. They should actually help me gauge that how far students have attained the course outcomes. And fourthly, good assessments focus on and flow from clear and important goals. So by goals, we mean the course outcomes, and we all understand that course outcomes are derived from the program outcomes, and all these program outcomes basically helping us attain the broader aims of education. So with all these 5 units discussion, we have completed the week 1 discussion. We will start detailed discussion on quality of assessment in week 2.